time that we have a national conversation as a country. The economy is tanking, taxes are rising, things are going down the tubes. All we can hear is all about political peccadillos and chicanery. It is time that we had a conversation in this country. It is time that we declutter and have a real conversation. And this is Siasa Bomba. I am Debarl Inea. Today's installment of Siasa Bomba. We're still running under the theme of food security, and today we are navel-gazing on revisiting national food security systems, our strategies addressing food production and prices. That is a probing question. And you remember, the hashtag is hashtag Siasa Bomba. Today, I am pleasured to be holding court with the Honorable Mary Nzomo. She is a County Executive Committee member for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Nzoia County, and also National Secretary, Agriculture, CECM's caucus. And also I have with me Dr. Timothy Njagi, who is a research fellow at Tegemeo Institute of Agriculture, Policy and Development. We want to get granular, especially when it comes to food systems in this country and also food prices. Reason first, we've noted the prices are skyrocketing. People are really blaming the government of these high prices. How is it affecting also people in the counties? Right, I just want to welcome you, Mary, and Dr. Njagi as well. Thank you for joining us on Siasa Bomba.
Thank you.
Where we always say Siasa Safi, Itambe. Yeah, Siasa Safi, Itambe. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your award, right?
Yeah.
The County Gala Awards, you are the best minister. Yeah, tell us more about that. What was it all about? You didn't carry the trophy with you today.
I should have.
Yes.
Yeah, basically this was an independent kind of survey, which was carried out without our knowledge. And what happened is that that company that does the county awards, the Gala Awards,
Yes.
They do their own service, independent of government and what have you.
So
and there are certain
no
things
that rolling from your end.
They interview the county residents. They want to know what we've achieved in the departments,
Yes.
what has been transformed, where we are coming from, whether there is a vision within the department. And they also look at, because we also have performance contracts, what we have achieved vis-a-vis what we promised the residents of the county to do. They also look at what we call the county integrated development plans, because they are priority projects and programs
Yes.
that we normally have.
Yes.
And we want to, they look at the scope of what we've been able to achieve. Given that now we are going to 2022, when the second generation county integrated development plans
Yes.
are going to be ending, so that we start another generation, they want to track and see how far we are in terms of delivering to the residents what we committed ourselves to do as a department. It's so emerged that in my department, we had retouched the hearts of the people, and the people of Nzoia County could feel agriculture. And they could actually go out there and say, we have been able to achieve this because of the interventions that they've received from the department.
So you ticked all the boxes?
Not necessarily all.
Sounds like.
Because, everything goes, every target goes with the resources.
Yes.
And you don't get enough resources to achieve 100%. But in terms of achievement, in percentages, I had been able to achieve more than the rest in terms of within the resources that had been available to me.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, let's get down to brass tacks right now, because I want us to cover quite a wide array of issues as far as food systems is concerned, strategies and food production and prices as well. And I will begin with where we are at. We are living in COVID-19 torrid times. It has adversely affected the way we live. But the question that I wanted to ask, especially for you, Honorable Mary Nzomo, is how has it affected the counties, especially when it comes to food systems?
Okay. I would say that when now COVID hit us, despite the COVID being with us, counties were supposed to ensure that food is available,
Yes.
it's accessible, and it's also affordable. And I would say that in terms of now the farmers, the producers now,
Yes.
accessing the inputs, the first thing we experienced was the high cost of inputs. because COVID came with restrictions. The cost of transport for now the farm inputs, fertilizer, seed went high. The producers experienced that price hike. And so a number of our farmers were not able to use the farm inputs optimally so that they could maximize production. That is at the production level. In terms of affordability of the food, a good number of the people now who consume this food, some of them were in informal employment. A good number of people were laid off. Some people were living from hand to mouth. And the question of them affording now the food became an issue, because even with the restrictions that came with transport, also the price of food also went up. And what we did now, in terms of course, also in terms of accessibility, there were movement restrictions, including even the closure of food markets. And the worst hit were the livestock markets. They were closed down because they had to meet the COVID protocols. And so what we did as governments is to ensure that there was we were able to avail in the marketplaces the minimum requirements to comply to COVID, so that now the markets could be opened up. With the exception of the livestock markets, which delayed a bit because it was a bit difficult now to maintain social distances in those auctioneers and what have you. But now looking at the consumer, because this is a person we are focusing on, with the coming on of COVID, I said incomes of people across board were affected. What we did was to look at the various categories of people, the consumers, and their levels of vulnerability. And they were the very vulnerable who didn't even have a piece of land to plow. So these people, we tried to intervene by providing food and also a bit of cash transfers. This is both levels of government, both the national government and the county governments. Then there was a second category of people who had some small pieces of land, but now they were limited in terms of affording the resources. What we did was that we were able to provide subsidies on inputs. And to a certain category of those people, we were also able to give free inputs so that they could sustain production. And of course, now there are those people whom we targeted through something like now the e-voucher system, which the national government rolled out. And these are the people we supported during the main season, so that the government gave 40%, and the producer was supposed to contribute 60% to the total cost of production. So all these programs were taking place, and we also reached out to other well-wishers. Like in my own county, we were able to reach out to a company like Kiara. They gave us fertilizer worth about 23.5 million, which we targeted the short rain season. Nzoia, we mainly do the long rain season, but we realized that with the short rain season, we also needed to continue production because there is a period of about 5 months when farmers don't do anything once they harvest the maize. So we introduced the short-term crops so that we could also bridge the gap in terms of food availability. Something like a company like Bayer East Africa, and we are saying thanks to them, they were able to give some vegetable seeds, which went together with the fertilizer. And the counties in the region where they experienced the short rains, they were even given things like maize. So I would say that producers were affected because of the hikes in prices. And of course, even around that time, also fuel prices went up. It means even in terms of operations, cost of operations, whether it is plywood, whether it is plant, whether it is what, the cost of operations went up. So generally, I would say that because of the high cost of production, high cost of inputs, we also experienced price hikes within that period.
Fantastic. Let's leave it at that, and I come to now Dr. Njagi as well to just give us a general assessment. Do you think COVID-19 just exposed the fragility of the food system, which was already there, and it only exacerbated you as a researcher? What was your assessment?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is what happened. Some of my colleagues and myself have been involved in tracking the effects of COVID in the sector. And exactly as Waziri mentioned, one of the most significant impacts was the disruption in the food supply systems. So the big challenge for Kenya is that our food system supply is mainly informal. Formal accounts for less than 20%. Most of what we produce gets to consumer through informal food supply systems. When we had the closures and the restrictions, most of that, of course, was affected. And because basically this was due to misunderstanding of the people enforcing some of these restrictions. We did not necessarily need to close markets because we know who the traders are. We could even have organized for them to come in different days rather than have market days opened in one day. You could have now market being opened for several days and then you have different people coming in. Then, of course, the other key shock was the closure now of the the formal supply system. The formal supply system is what goes, for example, to schools, to hotels, to where people now have like formal contracts that I'll supply you this, you'll pay me this much. With the closure of hotels, with the closure of schools, most of these farmers had nowhere to sell. And they had now to come back to the informal system, of course, where we know that now we have the brokers, we like to call them cartels, because you have to pay some kind of facilitation fee to access the markets.
Yes.
And then, because of the lack of coordination, I would say that we had a scenario where in urban areas, you face some kind of artificial food shortage because you're not getting the supplies in. Yes. And then in the rural areas, you're facing some glut because you're not getting the food out. So it kind of depresses your prices. And for the consumers, you tend to pay more because your supply has been disrupted. But at least we are happy that both county governments and national government at least worked to resolve that. But then now they came in now what Waziri mentioned, the issue about income. Yes. Because in the urban areas, most people lost their jobs. And then now you found that affordability became an issue. The national government stepped in to provide subsidy. There were direct cash transfers to vulnerable populations. I think that was good, and we really like it that the government saw it proper to give cash transfer, as opposed to, if you remember, at the onset, we had in-kind support, where people bought, instead of giving people money to buy what they want, we go and buy things that we think they want, and then and then we provide to them. So that is very inefficient. So the cash transfer system was quite efficient, and we are happy that the government actually adopted that to support those particular households. But then, of course, more importantly is that even in the rural areas, we had a lot of people going back to the rural areas. Remember, kids in school also, are now participating in agriculture. And support that Waziri has mentioned that was getting to farmers despite the challenges that were there.
Fantastic. Let's talk about per capita food availability, which also is a niggling worry, because from the statistic or the research that is out there, it seems that this has declined by more than 10% over the last 3 decades, while per capita consumption of maize, if we pick it as a product, and I know also largely from Nzoia area, this is your bread basket, so to speak, right? Has increased by 3% per annum. The question is, most Kenyans still subsist on diets based on staple crops like maize, but the nutritive value, and that is questionable as well. When it comes to diversification that we can actually broadly look at right now, we have Irish potatoes. We have silk farming that people are saying this is the way to go, we don't want to do, because maize market also is contracting as well with the imports of maize. I wanted just to get a clear understanding what is happening around maize production as a staple food, even looking at the national policy that is 2011. It says we have this neurosis with maize as a country, but it has no nutritive value at the end of the day. Because our children also, cognitive development is adversely affected because ugali all the time.
Okay, thank you for that question. I would say that indeed, the way you're saying, for the longest time in Kenya, food security was about availability of grains mainly. I would say now the maize, the beans, and what have you. And I think that is where we had it wrong, because it meant that if there is no enough maize in the country, then there is a food insecurity. But that is not the current definition of food security, because even in the Constitution, it talks about access to quality and nutritious food that meets the nutritional needs. It means it has to be a balanced diet. And that's why the government came up with what we are calling now the Food and Nutrition Security Policy, which is already a policy. And in fact, in that policy, it is even advocating for now flour blending. In the near future, in fact, maize will not be milled alone. It will have to be either with the finger millet, with sorghum, with cassava, or sweet potato. And those standards have been approved by KEBS.
Did we classify that as a fortified or?
Yeah, fortified.
Fortified, okay.
I would say fortified.
Okay.
But, that is now the carbohydrate part of it. But now we are also looking through the Big Four agenda and also through the ASTGS, the Agriculture Sector Transformation and Growth Strategy,
Yes.
we've identified 6 value chains that are going to contribute now to that what we are calling the Kenyan food plate,
Yes.
which is a balanced diet, where we are going beyond the maize, beyond the beans. We are looking at Irish potatoes, we are looking at the fish, we are looking at the milk, we are looking at the meats as a whole blend.
Yes.
And I would say that talking about maize as food security is no longer in the equation, in the government's equation, and that is why we are looking at the whole country
Yes.
as a country that has potential. And through the government, we've even come up with suitability maps.
Yes.
There is a Professor Orodi who was behind that study, which came up with suitability maps for the nation, where each part of this country, every county has been mapped on what they are strong in. And so what we are now talking about is no longer about high potential counties or low potential counties. It's about high rainfall and low rainfall area. Because now every part of this country has potential for something. And it's this potential that we need to unlock so that we can now make sure that what cannot be produced in one county with proper logistics can now be moved from there with enough data and taken to the counties where it's deficient. In Nzoia County, we have maize surplus. In other counties, there is no maize. But we can also get something from another county. Like, Nzoia wouldn't call it a pastoralist county.
Yes.
In terms of meats, you need to get the meats from the other regions. So this is a equation we are talking about. And with the kind of focus that we have, and even through the Ministry of Health, they have the Food Nutrition Action Plan. We are bringing all these documents on the table. There is a Climate Change Act, which has already been passed.
Yes.
We are looking at the whole equation, saying that what do we need now to unlock that productivity in Turkana, in Marsabit, in Garissa, in Kisumu, in Nzoia, and what have you. And that is why even things like rice now they're in the national picture, in the ASTGS and in the Big Four agenda. So we've redefined food security, because previously what we had, like in Nzoia, we are called the bread basket.
Yes.
We produce more maize than we can consume. In fact, every year we have a surplus of about 3 million bags. But do you know we suffer from food poverty? The malnutrition and stunting levels in Nzoia are higher than the national average. What does that tell you? We are not defined food security properly. And it is why now we are talking about food and nutrition security. And in the direction that we are moving, and with the policies in place now, that is what we are now driving towards achieving. And I can tell you now, it will no longer be about not having maize in this country. That is not what will define food security. We can still have our sorghums, our millets, our cassavas, and we still have food security in this country. Right now, there is even a push towards adoption of BT crops. The other day, BT cassava was approved. We are having now a cassava that is resistant to the brown streak virus. BT cotton before that was approved. Previously, you could not talk about BT.
GMOs,
Yeah, you could not talk about BT crops. But that is the direction where you're moving.
Okay.
Then the government is stepping in now to embark on irrigation, to open up and unlock the potentials in those areas.
Thank you.
Previously, irrigation was about crops, food crops. We are now even looking at irrigating feedlots for the livestock, so that you can grow quality pasture and fodder, store it for the dry periods in terms of hay, in terms of what, so that during the dry season, the animals can be fed on that.
Thank you.
To restore the pasture.
So my question again, if I may just latch on it, is the fact that also people are gravitating towards silk farming. Yeah. How does that also portend for food security?
Yeah.
Because when you go to silk, it's not really directly, coming into our bodies, right? But you're looking to the textile industry. If they're saying maize production is not really yielding much for us, silk is a way to go. Looking ahead, what does this portend for the counties?
For a person
especially,
to be...
is it Uasin Gishu County?
Nzoia?
Nzoia, yes.
Yeah. When you look at the accessibility, affordability, and availability of food, you realize that you don't have to be a farmer to be food secure. So for the people who are doing silk farming, they'll have money to buy the food they need from those people who are best placed to produce that food. And that is why even at our crop diversification program, we are not just promoting the food crops. We have brought on board the cash crops, like now the production of silk, because that farmer can do a cash crop, have money, and buy the food they require, without necessarily having to be the producer. And this is the empowerment that we want to give our Kenyan people. But
you can have the cash still, but have a problem with distribution, because we've seen the surplus in Nzoia, and there is drought in another county, and we wonder why the imbalance. So the problem is not really you having cash in hand. The problem is the distribution of food. Yes.
So what I wanted to mention is that one of the reasons you find us being fascinated with the staples is also a function of income. In economic theory, when you are poor and you are starting off, you tend to consume more of carbohydrate-rich diets.
Yes.
Then as you get more money, you start moving towards protein-rich diets. So us as a country, we are at a point where we are transitioning there. I think we had some economic boom during the Kibaki era period, and actually you could actually see even in the data that our consumption of more protein-rich diets was going up, and we were cutting back on some of the key staples like maize. And an example that we keep quoting is that there was a study that was done in 1999 that was showing that we consume about 100 kilos per capita for maize. Right now, the current estimation is that we are doing about 78, depending on the studies, it's about 78 to 82. We've seen that we are now consuming more rice, we are consuming more wheat, we are consuming more plantain. Irish potato is still down there, but again, it's a function of income, because as you're saying, you need to get to a point where you can produce something that actually makes you more money, so that you don't have to plant what you want to eat.
Yes.
The challenge we have right now is that for majority of the farmers, and especially the smallholder farmers, we have a lot of market volatility. As you're saying, we have a problem with distribution.
Yes.
We have a problem with storage as well, because remember, like for the staples, storage is a big factor, especially now because of safety. If you store it poorly, it gets aflatoxin. If somebody comes and tests, it's condemned. So we have to make sure that that infrastructure is put in place. Then we have to make sure that we have we unlock the market barriers, because we cannot pretend that we don't have market barriers. Today, if and Waziri can confirm this, if you're a maize farmer and you try to bring your maize to Marikiti, the barriers you encounter along the way, including cess, the levies that you have to pay, including the brokers, that you get to the market and you realize that you cannot come and dictate the price. You have somebody has come and tell you, we'll buy your maize at this price. Those are actual barriers. So how do we unlock that? And some of the things is what Waziri has said, trying to help farmers to aggregate, to federate, so that they can now be able to access a market as a group where it's not possible for you to access as an individual. But then you also have to make sure that consumers have power in their wallet, that they can actually buy food. So today, the current scenario we are right now is also a function of that people have no money because of the shocks from last year.
Yes.
So people, neighboring to Nzoia is Turkana. So if those pastoralists have money, we will not even be talking about drought, because they can create an effective demand that will make traders move from Kitale to Lodwar. But if they don't have money, then they have to rely now on public sector support, which either comes through the county government or the national government, to either give them money to buy the grain, or unfortunately, if they decide to do that, buy the grain and go and distribute to them.
Right. I'm interested that Mary, you mentioned the agricultural sector growth and transformation,
Yes.
10-year strategy. And of course, that aims to achieve so many things, improving small-scale farmers' access to inputs, facilitating large-scale cultivation on more high-potential agricultural land, improving the productivity and profitability of large-scale producers, improving extensions, services, and investing in research and digitization. But the critical question is, this plans, as we know, is a significant departure from how farming systems have been established in the past. But they're not supported by any meaningful political commitment to implement the change that you want. Right? And I'll give you an example. 2019-2020 national budget has not altered the adverse trends of low and declining allocations of agriculture and food sectors. As a proportion of total voted expenditure, the current allocation is 2.9%, down from 3.5% in 2016, 2017. So what are we talking about? And I saw also an article by the minister himself really touting this particular project, that 20-year, but we have no commitment at all politically in allocating these funds. And this is even a question I was posing to the legislators here. Right? Even the Maputo Declaration says at least 10%, should be dedicated to that. Why are you also loading this particular project, and of course there's no money?
Wow, that's a tough one. But I would say that I wish you can look at what the counties are doing, because I would say that there has been a big departure in the counties in terms of allocation. In fact, counties like Kakamega, they're even allocating over 10% of their county budget to agriculture. In my own county, on average, is about 8%. So with now the devolution of agriculture sector, function to the county government,
yes.
now the focus is more sharp.
Yes.
And that is why at the county planning now, we are looking at priority projects and programs, making sure they are captured in our CIDPs. And when it comes now to the budget preparation process, we make sure that we prioritize them and agitate, because we also approve our own budgets at the county assembly.
Yes.
So we have that window as county governments to increase the allocation to the agriculture within the county governments through that avenue. But of course, I would say that the trickle-down effect has to come all the way from national government. And of course, we are far from achieving that. Let me just finish. And that's why you realize counties at the county level, looking at the counties individually, we are doing much better as opposed to the national allocation to the sector. And of course, now through the county governments, we are getting these donor-funded projects and programs. Like there is a World Bank-funded program. It's called, there is a KSAP and the Norwich. We are having the CEDA-funded program. It's called ASDSP, Agriculture Sector Development Program. We are even having another program funded by IFAD. It's called Kenya Cereal Enhancement Program. So we are tapping on also the resources from the donors. And the beauty is that these resources are coming directly to the county.
But why are we focusing on the donors mostly?
No, I'm saying complementing.
Complementing.
Yes, complementing what the counties are doing. And that's why I said we are able to go higher than when you look at the national picture. In the counties, we are going a notch higher because of this extra support that we are going from the donor partners.
Yeah, maybe I wanted to say something that I know Aziri probably will not say, but I think I do agree with you that we lack political commitment from our leaders. First, I would like to say that if you look at agriculture as a sector, most of the functions have been devolved to county governments. So that means that we should be seeing actually significant amounts being allocated to county governments. The challenge is, and this is an excuse that has been used from time to time, is that even if you gave the money to the counties, the money would still go to other things, not agriculture, because it's not ring-fenced for agriculture. And actually CRA picked up on that, the Commission for Revenue Allocation. And in the formula that they had developed, they had actually ring-fenced that 10% in the formula for calculation for how money is disbursed between the national and the county governments, and also how money is allocated to the different sectors within the county governments. They had actually ring-fenced 10% of the money that goes to the counties be allocated to agriculture. So that is something that, of course, when it went to Parliament and the Senate, it did not get support. Eventually, it wasn't passed, and we still now got like an extension to continue using the old formula. So we think that there is need to also hold the leaders to account to make sure that is passed. Then secondly, we must also overcome the budget inefficiencies we have in the sector. So as you know, and you have seen this from time to time, counties have always I don't want to use the word complained, but rightfully argued about the delayed disbursements of monies from the treasury to the counties. Now think about agriculture. So if we are in the planting season and you need to train farmers and provide inputs, and the money comes 2 months after farmers have already planted, what do you do with that money? So then the challenge we have, especially in terms of absorption of funds that come to the sector, is that people see that money is not being spent, yet money comes when you cannot use it. And that is why, again, support to the formula to ring-fence money that comes to agriculture needs to be put in place so that the sector can actually get money when they actually need it. Then the third point that I wanted to make on this is that leadership is also important, because then now you can also hold other stakeholders to account. Remember that Kenya is a signatory to the Mutual Accountability Framework for CADEP, so that we are not just saying that the government, you fund 10%, but you also need to ask donors, what are you committing? What are you doing? Can we see that you're actually keeping your promise? We go again to the private sector and see what commitments they made, and then we hold them to account. So if the government does not do its role, it becomes now difficult to reinforce that mutual accountability. And then also, the reason why that framework would really work for the sector is because we can actually see the complementarities. So if the donors are focusing on one thing, the government can now focus on something that is complementary so that can actually add up. And the same to the private sector.
Thank you, thank you. And even talking of complementarity as we're winding up, I wonder, you as a researcher and the place that you play as the advisory to government, do you think there is that interface? Because it seems you have very good research, data, analysis, but all this that you do is not well absorbed by the government. Yeah, a lot we talk of KIPRA, talk of from the academia, Tegemeo, nice policy analysis and briefs, but these people, they remain none the wiser in trying to absorb this to make effective decisions at the end of the day.
So one thing that we have to appreciate is that policy making process is complex. And the reason I'm saying it's complex is because it's not linear, that we will come up with evidence and then they will take it up and then it gets implemented. One thing that we've also learned, and we really appreciate this by working with government, is that understanding the political economy strengthens policy, use of evidence in policy making. The challenge we have right now, of course, the phrase evidence-based policies is more of something that is used from time to time, and people can decide to disregard it when they don't want to. But I think the key challenge we have is the lack of or the weak accountability systems. So accountability systems will not start, for example, with researchers to policymakers.
Yes.
It's also the contract that the policymakers have with the citizens, the people who vote for them. So the key gaps, and the Constitution tried to cure this, was that one, there was the issue about participation. Can the citizens really say that they want a government that responds to their needs as opposed to one that comes and does things based on what they think that you need?
Thank you. Thank you. I know because of the interest of time, you want to just respond. I'll give you just a few, then we wind up.
Yes. I just wanted to mention that despite having these very good policies and strategies and what have you, and I can tell you the national government, it's their role under the fourth schedule. And alongside the policy formulation and the formulation of these documents, there's also supposed to be the capacity building component. Because you need to build the capacity for implementation of this. It's not good developing a document that you cannot build the capacity in the counties for its implementation.
Yes.
And it's all limiting the budget. Like now the people in Kilimbo, they would want to come to the counties and do those trainings, sensitization, capacity building sessions, but still the budget is capped. And that is why sometimes we may want to implement something, but we are now lacking the policy direction.
Thank you.
From our sisters.
Thank you.
Big brother.
Fantastic.
The
fantastic.
national government.
Mheshimiwa, I'm really pinched for time. We have to just leave it here. I know there's a lot that we had to discuss. Daktari also. We've not even looked at the livestock bill that people are really talking about, the crop production regulations also that is causing even the seed production as well. Those are matters that are very contentious. But another time we'll also allocate, and dedicate time for that as well. But I want just to give it 30 seconds as a closing remarks, beginning with you, Dr. Njagi.
Yeah, so thank you, Debarl. I think one of the key things that I would stress is the use of data and credible data. The challenge we have right now is that everybody has become a data producer. Everybody is kind of generating and manufacturing their own data and kind of using that to influence policy. We think we need to get to a point where we can build capacity within the policymakers to be able to understand credible data and evidence and use that to inform their policies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also want to say that government is an enabler. And of course, the government is supposed to make sure the environment, the regulatory environment, the legal environment, and also the institutional environment is good enough for all the value chain actors. And I think why there has been a lot of noise on these bills and regulations and what have you, because the capacity building and the sensitization component is lacking. People don't understand, and they are not able to interpret what this means for them. But what the government is looking for is, because we want to adopt the best practices in terms of food production, because we are not just focusing on the Kenyan population.
Yes.
We are also looking at the external market. We need to export our goods.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah,
But
and
remember, it's within your remit to make them understand. How they
Yeah.
understand.
Resources.
Resources again.
Resources. Give us the 10% and we go the extra mile.
accusatory fingers that is being blamed on resources. Everything resources. But nonetheless, thank you for that very cogent discussion that we've had. I really do appreciate. Yes, you've been watching Siasa Bomba, and this has been a very interesting conversation looking at the broader aspect, even on the food system within the counties as well. Rich repository of information also from the academia and from the county government. Thank you for your valued company. My name is Debarl Inea.